Well, hello everyone. Welcome to today's Learning Clinic. It is really amazing to see you all here today from all over the world, and I really love to see all the people from like all the countries. It's really amazing. Today we'll talk about Wikisource and manuscripts and very much other interesting things. My name is Gorana, and I'm Global Manager at Wikimedia Serbia, but also a liaison for Let's Connect program. It's really amazing to be here today with you. In the next few minutes, I will talk a little bit more about Let's Connect, our culture, and what are we going to do here today. Today is not like a regular learning clinic we most of the time have. This learning clinic will last for an hour and a half or for the next 90 minutes. So make yourself comfortable and let's go. So as I said, the name of the learning clinic today is Wikisource Loves Manuscripts, or Wikisource 101 to 102. So that means that today we will learn some basics about Wikisource editing, but also some of the little bit advanced things about Wikisource and tools. So we will have some interesting learning outcomes today, so just keep tuned. And as you may already know, I'm sure some of you have already participated to our learning clinics, but in case you're not, Let's Connect, this is our Let's Connect culture. So as you may know, Let's Connect is a peer learning program that is founded by Wikimedia Foundation, but it is supported by communities all over the world. In our spaces, we are trying to have a safe learning space where we can have a good time. As when I say a safe learning space, I really mean that we can all ask questions. We can all feel comfortable to share our experience, to ask our sharers whatever we would like to know more, a little bit more about the topic. So just please feel free to share your thoughts, to ask your questions, to maybe even raise your concerns about something. We are all here to discuss and make sure that we are getting better and we learn by each learning clinic. So we really do encourage discussions and connections and communications. So just feel free to open your mics or type in the chat all your questions and thoughts. And while we're here today, we will have two amazing sharers today, Satdeep, Gill, and Sam from Wikimedia Foundation, and they will tell us a little bit more about Wikisource, its value in the Wikimedia ecosystem. You will understand the basics of Wikisource editing, but as I said, we have 102 as well. So we will all discover Wikisource tools for advanced contribution. We will learn how to use Wikisource in our activities. Wikimedia ecosystem, Wikimedia world has a lot of projects, a lot of activities, and sometimes the spotlight is being on some other project. So today we are making sure to put a spotlight on Wikisource and how we can contribute to this amazing project. Today's agenda is the welcome and introduction to Wikisource that will be led by Satdeep. Then we will have a demo on basics of English Wikisource that will be led by Sam, and then we will have Q&As. We'll send you a Jamboard in the chat, so please make sure to ask questions in the Jamboard or please type it down in the chat, because we will have a Q&A part of the session, or questions and answers part, where we will have a great discussion with our sharers today. After that, we will have advanced editing on Wikisource, and we'll close with group reflection, where we will have also like a little bit of discussion, and we will try to gather the most important information from today's learning clinic. Thank you very much for listening to me. Now I'm giving a mic to our dear Satdeep. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Corona. Hello, everyone. I'm Satdeep Gill. I'm from Punjab, India, and I am a senior program officer in the culture and heritage team at the Wikimedia Foundation. I'll be speaking a bit slow, but also I'll cover this brief introduction in about 10 minutes to give more time for the actual demo. Just to set the stage, this is one of the first sessions that we're doing, and this is in collaboration with Let's Connect, but this is as part of the larger Wikisource Loves Manuscripts initiative. And we have a small cohort around that, and we're doing Let's Connect learning clinics. We're doing some special workshops um, for a selected cohort of people that we're going to work with who are going to implement projects digitizing manuscripts in their communities. And this project was inspired from the Balinese community, which has worked with Balinese manuscripts. And we are about to conclude this 1 year pilot in Indonesia that we did, besides Balinese in a few other languages. And we are also looking at improving the infrastructure. And you'll learn and hear a bit about these in this conversation, but also in the future sessions that we are going to do about it. So now, coming to this session, focusing on Wikisource, I'd like Gorana to move to the next slide, please. Um, so this sometimes it's confusing. What does Wikisource actually represents? And if we ask the question what Wikimedia project represents, I think Wiktionary or Wikipedia, they are some of the obvious representations of what kind of content are you going to find there. But Wikisource and what are we going to do there? But with Wikisource, it can be a bit confusing. If it represents libraries, can I read any book there? Like, can I read Shakespeare, Pushkin, or J.K. Rowling, or Chinua Achebe? Well, Shakespeare and Pushkin, yes, but not J.K. Rowling or Achebe, uh, not yet at least, because we have to respect copyrights on our platforms. Um, there are some case studies we can talk about that in a future conversation where people like the ones in this room already have been working with contemporary writers to relicense their books for Wikisource and other platforms as well. That said, Wikipedia is the most popular project we all know, but Wikisource has been growing rapidly in the recent years, especially in some of the underrepresented parts of the movement. Next slide, please. And I believe Wikisource is playing and is going to play a critical role in the essential infrastructure for especially for many of the non-Latin and non-Cyrillic languages. And you might know it already or not, but Wikisource is the only transcription platform in a lot of the languages that it supports. It currently about 74 languages, and for many of them, it's the only transcription platform. Like my language, Punjabi, there is no other website where I can go take a scanned text and change it into a typed digital text. That's the power of Wikisource, and we'll learn more about it. If this is not making sense, we'll learn more about this in this session. That's what this is for in the demonstration. So if something is not making sense, just hang on there, and you'll have a better sense by the end of the workshop. Next slide, please. This is what the wikisource.org page looks like, also known as the multilingual Wikisource. And you can see some of the major languages here at the top. So no major surprises here. Next slide, please. But yeah, yes. So this is where it gets really interesting. These are dozens of small languages in which at multilingual Wikisource, which is similar to Incubator, but for Wikisource, because Wikisource have a different infrastructure. from incubator. But this is where things get interesting. There are many different languages that are being incubated, and many small languages of the internet getting their place and finding their place on the internet and getting themselves organized here. Um, Next slide, please. And I'll just quickly go through the next couple of slides. This is what the main page of English Wikisource looks like as of today. Sam will do a demo of it. And next slide, please. This is what an example text looks like. And so this text here by Virginia Woolf, and you can see there is a button at the top of the text to download it. So you can read the text online, but if you click on the download button and go to next slide for that, you'll see that, next slide, please. You'll see that if you click on the download button, you see different formats available in front of you. So you can download the book in either of these formats, and this has been possible because of the work done by Sam Wilson's team here. So Sam will be doing a demo of this as well, I'm guessing. Next slide, please. And then there is what's if you scroll down on the main page, you'll also see what is the community working on. Because as a real library, or by that I mean as a physical library, kind of bring new books into their collection. Wikisource community transcribes scanned books to their collection. And that's where I think, even the definition of what Wikisource is kind of needs to be changed. It just doesn't represent only the libraries. And I think if you go, can you go to the next slide, please? And so this is what I talk about when I say that we're bringing text online. And you see here, there are some pages which are marked in different colors. The yellow one means they've been seen by one person. The green ones have been proofread, validated by two people. But what this means is that this is a library or a bookstore with an adjacent workshop or a printing press. And that's why I think, sometimes just saying that Wikisource is a free library doesn't convey what beautiful sorcery it's doing. And that's why Wikisource contributors are also known as wiki sorcerers. Yeah, next slide, please. And this is a demonstration of how that looks like when you want to transcribe a page. You see an image on one side, you see the text on the other side, and then this ensures the source layers is there. The source layer ensures that you can go and verify that this was the actual text which was printed. And yeah, thank you. That's was a small introduction to Wikisource. Now we'll go into a live demonstration of how this works, and I'll hand it over to Sam for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Satdeep. That was a terrific introduction. Let me just share my screen and we can get going. I have too many windows open. Where is it? Okay. So let me know if the font size is big enough and things, and you can hear me and everything. Yeah, so basically, I'm going to go through a demonstration of Wikisource and proofreading and uploading texts and getting them ready for proofreading, and basically the end-to-end process. So we'll start here at the homepage, and we'll run through quickly to sort of orient you a bit as to what the various parts are. and then we'll start uploading, and we'll move into proofreading. So yeah, the homepage of multilingual Wikisource is an index to all of the different places, and you go to whatever language you're looking for, and you navigate your way to find a work, and most works are in the main namespace. Actually, I should probably just give a little explanation of some of the assumed knowledge that we've got here. So I'm not really going to talk about Wikimedia basics, sort of like what is a wiki page, how are things linked, what are namespaces, how are images stored, what are templates. So there's lots of documentation for that elsewhere. We'll just focus on the Wikisource specific stuff. So when you're looking at a work on Wikisource like this, at the top, there should be a link to the source. Not 100% of works have a source document, but the ones we're looking at all do. So we can go down here, and there's a table of contents somewhere, and if we jump into one of those, we can see that even on subpages, there's still a source tab. So there's always a source tab, so you can always go back to what's called the index page. And the index page is the hub of all proofreading activity on Wikisource. So you can see here, there's a bunch of metadata and the page list, as Satdeep was explaining before, and the table of contents is often repeated to make it easier to navigate to different parts of the work. Generally on the index page, there's a illustrative either cover page or title page of the work. And if you click on that, it takes you to, in this case, an uploaded Deja Vu file. And we'll just jump to the Commons version of that. So now we're on Wikimedia Commons, and we're looking at the source document. So there's two main ways of providing source material, source images for Wikisource. One is in a multi-image format, either Deja Vu or PDF. PDF, I'm sure everyone's familiar with. Deja Vu is a similar multi-image format that allows having text layers encapsulated in the document as well. And the other main way of doing it is by individual scan images, PNG or TIFF or JPEG or whatever it might be. So to get started with proofreading, we want to start with a file on Commons. So to find a file, there's all sorts of ways we can do it, but a very common way is to start on the Internet Archive, because they have scanned many hundreds of thousands of works. Here is one I fairly randomly chose earlier today. This is a very early 18th century novel. And so what we're going to look at is how do we go from the Internet Archive into Wikimedia Commons. And so to do that, hopefully you can all sort of see the text the URL and things. So what I'm doing here is I'm copying the Internet Archive identifier of this work. It's the bit after the details / whatever. So I've copied that, and now I'm going to go to a tool that we've built called the Internet Archive Upload tool, iaupload.wmcloud.org. All of these links are in the documentation. And this is where we can provide the, and I've already logged into the tool, so we don't need to do that. And so I put in the Internet Archive identifier into the first field here, and then I give it a file name. So this file name is, as we were here on the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, this is the file name that it's going to be saved at as on Commons. So here I will just take part of the title from the Internet Archive, and we can choose the format that it's going to end up in. So you can either choose PDF or Deja Vu. There's pros and cons to both. We're going to choose PDF for now because people are more familiar with it. It's generally is going to result in less explanation. So we hit Get Metadata. And what this tool does is it goes to the Internet Archive and it gets all of the metadata about that work. And then it pre-fills the Commons Wikitext template. So hopefully people are slightly familiar with uploading to Commons. And possibly you've uploaded photos and things to Commons, and they often use the information template. But works for Wikisource quite often will use the book template, and the book template provides a bunch of other fields, metadata fields, for doing various things. I'm not going to go through all of this. Some of it's self-evident, but I will at least change the language because this is a 18th century work. It has estimated that it's written in Middle English. I'm no linguist, but that's not quite correct. It also pre-fills this Wikisource link down here, and this is probably one of the most useful parts of the book template. So this is going to create a link to where we can start proofreading. So I just have to go down here, and I have to change it from Middle English just to the EN, or whatever the language code is of the Wikisource that you're targeting. So if you're going to be proofreading this on a different language, that's where you'd change the language code. The other part of it, the index, that's the same everywhere, although you could use the localized version, and the page name will be the PDF file name. So if I hit upload on this now, it will download the PDF from the Internet Archive, give it the right file name, and upload it to Commons with all of this metadata. For this, this is quite a large book, so that's going to take a little while. So here's one I prepared earlier. This is a different different novel from the same collection, and we can see here that it's uploaded it. This is the title I gave it, and if I jump into editing, you'll see that it's using the book template. There's a bunch of other metadata. Oh, ignore that preview at the top. There's some metadata in here. The language is set, and again, we can see the Wikisource parameter where it's linking to the index page. So if I just go back to viewing this file. So now we're in a situation, we've got a PDF or a déjà vu file uploaded to Commons, and we want to start proofreading. And so it's simply, because we're using the book template, it provides these convenient links up here. So this one, the Wikisource icon, if we click on that, this is now going to take us to English Wikisource, into the index namespace, and then the file name appears as the page name. So this file name needs to match exactly the file name that you used on Commons. So it's the name of the page that is what connects the two. So there isn't any other metadata behind the scenes that makes it work in that way. So this one doesn't exist yet, and if we hit create, we'll see that this isn't a normal wiki page. This is a index page with a particular data entry form, and it tries to pre-fill a bunch of things, and a fair bit of that is probably correct. Like, it's got the author name pretty good. Some of these things, probably would need to be edited. I'm not going to go totally into the details of that, but there are a few interesting aspects to this. So for instance, we don't actually need that to be italic, and we probably will just use Barford Abbey as the title. And the volume here, it'll probably be given a subpage of volume 1. And hopefully people are familiar with Wikitext links. So this is saying that in the main namespace, we're going to have a page like this, and that's the displayed text. This particular novel is in 2 volumes, so we're going to have 2 volumes, and we'll go through what that means in a bit. There's a bunch of other metadata here. I'll skip over that because it's fairly self-explanatory, and lots of it just is copied directly from the Commons similar fields. But further down in the form, we do have to do a few things. So we select the format that the scans are in. In this case, it does it automatically. But there are situations in which you're uploading a set of JPEG files or other things, and so you need to select that. In the case of multi-page formats, we have to select which of those pages we want to use as the title, the cover image that gets displayed on the index page. So I'll just leave that as 1 for now. we have a bunch of different progress indicators here. We're just going to not worry about that for now. We'll leave it on the default, and the use of that will become clear in a minute. What we do need to go into is the page list. So this is a really important part of an index page when you're working with multi-page documents. So when you scan a document, like this work here, you scan from the, well, in this case, it hasn't actually done the front cover, but it's not scanning from page number 1. So if we jump through here, there's, so now this is page 2 and 3, so this is page 1. And then we go back and there's pages before that. And so those pages are given numbers. And so what we have to do is make a little system that associates the scan number starting at 1 at the beginning of the document for the first scan with the page number, as in the page number that's printed on the page. So in this case, we have this very useful little tool. If you hit, whenever you've got the page list tag in the pages field here, you can hit preview page list, and it opens up the grid of what it thinks it's going to be, and it defaults to starting from page number 1 on scan number 1. Now we know that's not correct. I think it might be scan number 4, in fact, is page number 1. Here we, no, I was wrong. It's actually further along than that. So you'll notice that it did take a little bit of time to generate the image then. So there are some aspects of this need a little bit of patience. And if I just keep clicking through here, this is a really useful. So now we're on page number 1. And so I'm not going to go into the details of how you do a page list, but I will just set up some small parts of it. So we know that scans number 1 through to 6 are not part of the work proper, and then we know that scan number 7 is page number 1. And so if I go scan 7 equals 1, and then I go preview page list, it updates this area down here. And now see how it's renumbered things. So the numbers are actually going to align with what's in the work. So if I jump through to like page number 10, this might well actually be printed page number 10 once it loads. There we go. Yeah, it is. So in that way, you can go through and you can make sure that you've got all the pages and that they're labeled appropriately. And you can also give things other labels. So if we jump back to the title page, which I think was, oh, this is the cover. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say 3 equals cover. And if I update the preview, you can see you can use actual words as well as numbers. So you can really go into quite a lot of detail about what bit of the book is what. And I'll just save it at that, even though it's not complete. There's a fair bit more to do, but I won't bore you by going through the entire process. If we jump down to the bottom, there's a few other features here, but we won't go into that. We want to jump onwards with the proofreading. So if we just hit publish, we'll see that the page list that we were looking at before is now been output here with all red links. So the Wikimedians here will know that red links mean it doesn't exist yet. And so we want to start proofreading. So let me just have a drink. I'll jump now to another work so we can see what happens if we're halfway through proofreading. So if we look at the work we were working on at Wikimania this year, MalaySketches.pdf. So here we have the page list, and you can see that it's got cover and it's got a few dashes to indicate there isn't anything to do there. And then it's got some other descriptive words for pages. Then it's got the front matter starting in lowercase Roman numerals. And then it's got the work proper starting from page 1 and going through. And you'll see that also these pages are all highlighted in various colors. So some of them are red links, and those mean they don't exist yet. Some of them are green, and that means they've been completely validated. And we don't have any here in red, which means hasn't been proofread. So we'll go through the process of what these colors mean. So generally when you're proofreading, and especially when you're just starting to proofread, it's good to work on a book that somebody else is taking through this process. And so the proofread of the month is always a good place to start, because then there's other people looking at your work and can help you along. So I'll just stick with this one because it's a useful example. So if I go to a red link, so it doesn't exist yet, you can see it's taken us to the page namespace. So this is a different namespace to the index page, but it still has the file name included as the page title, and then a subpage slash number, and it's always a number, and that's the scan number of the book. So it's not the page number. Here, if we scroll down a bit, we can see it's page 209, but scan 227. So that is the Wikitext page that we're going to end up proofreading this text into. So if we jump down a bit further, we can see we've got the side-by-side proofreading interface, and you can zoom in and out here. I'm using the scroll wheel for that, and you can pan around. And then on the left-hand side, we've got 3 Wikitext fields. So you can put any normal Wikitext and templates and everything in these 3 fields: the header, the body, and the footer. So lots of books printed in the last couple of 100 years have a running header and a footer that includes things like a page number. And we don't want to include those in the main proofread part of the page, the body of the page. And so they have their own places to live here, because we do want to proofread them. We do want to add them into the work so they can be searched and useful for people. But when we transclude everything into the main namespace, and we'll get to that in a moment, we want to make sure that we're only getting the bit that we need. So for a lot of the history of Wikisource, the process here has been to go through like visually look at the image, and on this side start typing basically. But you can see here that there's already some text in this. Where's it got that from? So the Internet Archive runs OCR on all of their works and then embeds the text into the PDF. And then when we load the PDF here on the page, in the page namespace, the proofread page extension that runs Wikisource extracts that text and puts it into here. However, it's not necessarily great quality. I mean, for some works, it is really good quality, but luckily we have another, a couple of other ways of doing this. So up here, we've got this transcribe text button with a little arrow next to it. And we can open that drop down, and we can see that we can choose different OCR engines that we'll be able to, on demand, run OCR on whatever the current image is. So whatever page you're on, it will run OCR for that image. So if it's already selected Google, so if I just hit transcribe text, you can see it's saying it's transcribing it, and then it's done it. And you can see it's generally, for some of these works, it's a fair bit better than the quality from the Internet Archive. And that's often because the Internet Archive might have scanned this 10 years ago, and their OCR tools have improved since then. Or it, certainly once we get into looking at handwritten works, there's a bunch of other things to do there. So now we've got the OCR that's as good a quality as we could hope for. We can start proofreading. So I'm going to move the Malay superstitions, the chapter header up to the top, and I'm going to wrap it in a center template with a shortcut of C. I'm then going to hit a little shortcut button I've got called page cleanup, and that's going to remove line breaks. So after the OCR has run, each line of the text in the image is represented by a single line in the page body. But actually, the way Wikisource does it, and there's a lot of information about these formatting conventions, is that we rewrap the line so that we treat the paragraph as a paragraph. And that makes for much better quality output in a bunch of different ways. So here we can see that the paragraph starts with this quotation mark, and it goes through and it ends with most mighty. So I've done that there. And so 90% of your time on Wikisource you spend looking at this page, very carefully looking at the text in the image, very carefully looking at the text that you've got in the body, and making sure they match. So matching is like, I've already said we remove line breaks, so we're obviously not trying to match exactly the same thing, but we don't fix typos, we don't fix spelling mistakes. We do maintain italics and bold and small caps. So I'll make this line here italics, and you can see the E here has a little, it's a slightly blurry little accent, but I think it's a little caret. So if I go up to special characters, and I can grab it from there, and that inserted it here. So I'll delete the other E that was already there. And so you have to go through looking at line by line, word by word, and checking that everything matches completely. So there's another italic at the bottom there. I'll just use the italic button to make that italic. And that's, I haven't really looked at this very closely because I'm just trying to get through. But in that case, I'm sort of 70% happy that it's reasonably good. And then we get to the footer, and in this case, the footer is a running footer of the page number, and so in fact, it's already automatically entered that, and it knows that it's page 209 because of the page list that we prepared earlier. So that's where that becomes really useful. It can figure out which page is which based on what we told it in the page list. So I'll just scroll down a bit. There's an edit summary and the watch buttons and the usual stuff. And then you get these radio buttons, these colorful things. So here there's 4 of them, but often there'll be 5. There'll be a 5th green one. So if you hover over them, well, if you select them, it'll pre-fill some summary text. So here we've got without text, not proofread, problematic, and proofread. And then there'll be a 5th green one of validated. So this is where proofreading on Wikisource really relies on this process. So what we want is at least 2 people to have looked at every page and confirm that it matches the scan. And so we do that by the first person coming along and saying, yes, I have proofread this. And then another person coming along, and they'll have the option of adding the green validated status. In this case, I don't feel like I have proofread this, so I'm going to say not proofread, even though I've done a fair bit of the work. And that'll mean that somebody else will know that they can come along and they can have a look through. Maybe they don't have to make any changes, but they can then mark it as yellow or proofread. So if I hit publish now, we'll see that that status is reflected at the top here in a colored bar. And if I jump up back to the index page, we can look at page 209, and it's the same color of not proofread. If I go back one to page 208, so we can see what it looks like. Actually, that's possibly not going to work because I was the one who did that. So if I jump back to page 202, so we can look at, so if we look at the history here, we'll see that somebody else has marked this as yellow and proofread. And so if I go into edit it, and I'll come back up and have a look at it in a moment, but we can go down here and we can see that it's got a new green button. And so I can click validated, and that's saying I have looked at this very closely and I don't think there's any more changes to be made. So that's not quite true because there's the header here. Although it's been added to the header, it hasn't been removed from the body. So I'll just do that, and then I'll have a bit of a scan through. I'm pretty sure this is good. I did have a bit of a scan through these earlier. So there's an italics down here. This book is reasonably, it's very clear text. It's the OCR works very well here. So there's often not that much to do, but there are often some different characters that need replacing and things. So I'm just looking through this pretty quickly, line by line, and making sure that it's all what it should be. I think it is. So I'm going to leave it as green, and I'm going to hit publish. And so now it's validated. And basically that means that probably no one else needs to come and look at this. That's not always true. Everyone, everyone is human. Sometimes you can overlook things. And there are later on processes that will help to catch those. So if I jump back up to the index page, we can see the one I just did is now green. And so what we're trying to do here is make the entire thing green. So in summary of that, like the proofreading process, the main job on Wikisource is clicking from page to page, looking at the text, adding in all the formatting, all the templates that you need, and making sure it all matches. And that's really, that's Wikisource 101. Yeah, there's a lot of other bits and pieces, and there's a lot of other documentation around it. But I think basically that's the crux of things. So let me just having a look at my notes to see what else we wanted to go over. Yeah, okay. So let's just say that we had looked at this and we'd finished proofreading this, and then we want to get to the actual point of Wikisource of like making it available. So if I go back to the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde as this month's featured work, so we can see here that we've got an index page, we've got all that information, and it's all green. So that's terrific. So what then? Okay, so this is all happening in all the proofreading work so far is happening in the index namespace and the page namespace. In the main namespace, the one that doesn't have a name, is where we put the actual work. And so the page title in the main namespace is the title of the work, and then it will often have subpages for, in this case, different chapters. So / and then chapter title. And all of these, the top level one, I'll jump back to the top level one, and all of the subpages are going to transclude sections from the work. So they're going to transclude, each of them will probably include from 1 or 2 up to a few dozen pages from the page namespace, and they're going to combine those pages together with no space between them. So I'll show you, it's easier if we go to a chapter to show you what I mean. So if we go into edit, you can see here that there's not very much on this page. I've got the preview on. This is the real-time preview tool that shows side by side what we're looking at. So you can see there's a header template. This is sort of like an info box template if you're a Wikipedian. This is like the main metadata template of a page. And every page in the main namespace, other than disambiguation pages, should have a header page, a header template, sorry. And that header template builds this green box here that shows the title, the author, and navigation to the previous and the next chapters. So that's not doing anything particularly amazing. Like there's lots of navigation wiki templates that do similar things. But this next bit is Wikisource specific. So what we've got here is the pages tag. And this is going to take a set of the pages that we've proofread, and it's going to take the body of each of them, and it's going to mash them all together with no space between them, and it's going to display them all as wiki text. So I'll break this down a bit. So the index attribute is in this case, it's the deja vu, but for the work we were just looking at, it'll be the PDF. So this is the file name as used on Commons and as used in the index namespace. And you can see you can leave out the underscores and use spaces instead, but apart from that, it has to match exactly. And then it's got these two parameters, from and to, and these are scan numbers. So this is saying we want scan numbers 24 through to 39 inclusive. And so if I go back to viewing this page, you see it in the sidebar here, it's got these page numbers. And if I hover over that, that's scan number 24. You can see the tooltip there. It might be a bit small to see, but it's showing page number from the page namespace, number 24. And the 14, again, is coming from the page list. So the page list numbering gets used here as well. So this shows you that the highlighted part, the gray highlight here is that part of text. So if I just open that in a new tab, you can see that this is the same process as before. It's a proofread page. It's got this header text up here in the header, and then it's got the chapter title, and then it's got some text, and you can see there's some small caps there, and then it ends with "of the deceased." So if we jump back here, you can see all of that is the same here, and it ends in the middle of a sentence in this spot here. And so if I go back to the page and I go to the next page, you can see this one, the body of it starts "of Henry Jekyll," right? Of Henry Jekyll. So what it's doing is it's taking those two pages, putting them together without a line break in between them. And this is what makes the text. This is what puts it all back together after you've proofread it and makes the actual book for reading. So each of these, if you hover over the number in the sidebar, it highlights which bit is assigned to which page. And that's all thanks to the pages tag. So there's a few other complex things to this. So for instance, if you've got a chapter that starts halfway down a page, how do you handle that? We'll get to that in a moment. So after you've proofread it, and then you come to the main namespace and you create a page for every chapter, and you've added in your text, and you've put in your header template so that you can navigate from chapter to chapter. And you'll go to the authors page. So we haven't really talked about authors yet, but every author has a page, and it lists all of the works by that author. So you'll make sure that that's there. And at that point, the work is complete, basically. And if you want, you can download it with the big blue button at the top, and you can get it in a number of different formats. And this is what I was talking about before. So after you've done that and you've created all of the different main namespace pages, and then you download the EPUB and you put it onto your e-reader or your phone or whatever, and then you sit back and you calmly read through it again from end to end, at this time carefully looking out for anything else and going back and fixing any remaining typos or anything. And at that point, it's basically done. Satdeep, I think, is that a good spot to pause for question and answer?
Definitely, Sam. Thank you so much for that detailed introduction to Wikisource and the demonstration. We have a lot of questions already on the Jamboard. I think the link to the Jamboard is there in the chat. I guess Bukola can share that again if you like to ask more questions. So I think I'll just read out some of the questions here. One of it is, what if a book has no OCR layer when it's not from Internet Archive? What happens then?
If there's no OCR layer?
Yes, like it's not.
Yeah. So then it's you can use the built-in OCR tools that we've provided. Is my screen still sharing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So I've got too many bits on my screen here. Right. So on every page in the page namespace, you can choose these OCR tools. So Tesseract is an open source one that we host on Wikimedia Cloud Services. Google is hosted by Google on their Cloud Vision service. And Transkribus is the new handwritten text recognition system that we're going to talk about, I think, on the in 2 weeks' time or something. And at the bottom, there's this advanced options. So that takes you to the OCR service where you can choose from the same services and you can see what you're looking at. Sorry, you can see the image that you're transcribing. And you can also, if you've got like a multi-column image, you can select parts of it. In this case, it's not a multi-column, but I'll just select part of it and you can go transcribe area. And it'll just do that one part of it. So that's really useful if you've got a document that has columns or text laid out in other ways. So yeah, if there's no text layer, doesn't matter. There's ways around that.
Perfect. So another question is there any step-by-step guidebook for beginners to share to start working on Wikisource? Or guide?
Yes, there is. There's the beginner's guide, and there's lots of documentation in here. I mean, obviously here I've been going through English Wikisource, and there are 74 Wikisource, 73 Wikisources, however many it is now. So there's differing levels of documentation, and I mean, it's a bit of a cliche to say that the documentation isn't always good enough, but this is Wikimedia. Some of it's really amazing. Some of it's amazing but a bit out of date. And some of it probably hasn't been, you know, like I would really encourage anyone reading the documentation, if it doesn't make sense, then reach out and talk to people, like reach out on the Village Pump, which is called Scriptorium on Wikisources, and talk about it, because there's nothing better than a beginner's eye to find out the things that are lacking. So yeah, if everyone could like, you know, read the docs, but report on them too, that'd be cool. But yeah, there's some pretty good stuff here about how do you do it, how are we gonna build index pages, what are we doing with different templates, all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah.
Perfect. Another question that I'll pick is, yeah, so the book on Commons first, is that a prerequisite or a mandatory step to have the book or the scanned file on Commons?
Yes. Yep. Although local uploads on wikis can be enabled, and on some they are, generally, you know, for a general rule, yeah, it's always good to put it onto Commons. You know, there might be reasons like copyright, or you know, I think some wiki sources have suggested being able to upload non-free texts, but basically, yeah, there's a bunch of issues around that. Yeah, so I would say no, it should go on Commons first. And that step of taking it from the Internet Archive to Commons, that's a common way to do it, but you can just upload from wherever you've got the work from directly to Commons.
Okay, thank you, Sam. So one more question is, what would you recommend to get editors interested in this project? What kind of activities should we organize?
That's a good question. I think that you know, there's two things that keep people coming back to Wikisource. I mean, one is that there's a lot of us who really like the process of making a nicely typeset and formatted work, and it really helps if the content of that work is a topic that you're interested in. So you know, there's a lot of stuff on Wikisource where people have gone into great depths and found every work about their, you know, local town or particular branch of French law, or whatever it might be. Like there's, if you've got a research topic and there's a body of freely licensed or public domain texts, then it's a really good project to try and get them all onto Wikisource, or you know, all of the works of one author, or you know, as Edinburgh University did a few years ago, all of the chapbooks from their collection, scanned and uploaded and transcribed. So Yeah, I think things like proofreadathons, like proofreading competitions, and topical or institutional focused things can really help. But it's funny. I think at the end of the day, there's some people who really like this process, and some people who sort of don't quite get it. And yeah, I think it's probably the people who get it who will carry on.
Thank you. Another question is there an option to OCR all pages in one click?
There isn't at the moment. That's for a few reasons. Part of it is a resourcing thing that actually we don't want to overload the OCR services. And a bigger part of it is that most wiki sources have either a policy or just a general aversion to filling up the page namespace with completely unproofread text. Because although you can go through, and dump all of the OCR text in there, that doesn't really help. Like you can always do that later when you're editing the page. And yeah, generally it's seen as not that useful to pre-populate page namespace pages with raw OCR text. Different wiki sources differ, and certainly the more we're looking at handwritten text recognition, the more it makes sense to go down that road of having a system of pre-filling, because the OCR process is slower than for published works, like typewritten works.
Thank you. So someone has asked, for a paragraph, do we transcribe the line breaks exactly like the line breaks in the scanned page, or just transcribe it without line breaks like a normal paragraph?
Without line breaks. Yep. So you run the paragraph together into a single paragraph. There are situations like poetry, for instance, you have to maintain the line breaks. And so for that, I'm not going to find any in the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I don't think. But for some situations, you'll use templates like or like the BR break element, or most wiki sources have that as a template, so you can insert a template like BR and it'll put the line break in. But for the vast majority of cases, we remove hyphens at the ends of words and line breaks, and we maintain spelling differences, we maintain formatting, we maintain a lot of stuff, but not everything from the printed page. And there are other things like the Barford Abbey book from earlier. If we look at that, I think we can see that it's got, it's going to be very slow to load because it's never been loaded before. We can see that this is like an 18th century work, and so the median S's are printed as long S's. It's not going to be able to find one, is it? But yeah, next page. Here we go. So here you can see when it loads. Yes, like paternoster. I don't know if you can. I'll make that a bit bigger. So you can see paternoster, Noster. The S is actually looks like an F. So in that case, we proofread that as an S because it's actually an S. It's just it's effectively a font choice, if you will, that is making it look like something else. But so we don't maintain 100% of things. But yeah, like we would proofread this page, we would proofread this as centered larger text, and we would put these lines in, and this would be in all caps. And London would probably be, it's got slightly larger letter spacing, and then T Cadell here is in small caps. We maintain all of that, and there's templates to help with all of that. So yeah, Like it's a matter of discussion as to, how far do you go and what do you include, and different wiki sources have different rules around that stuff.
So I'll just take one last question, Sam. Someone says, how do we know that a book can be uploaded on Wikisource or not? And a related question was about copyrights, like what copyright statement or not. Maybe not exactly Wikisource, more like copyrights and commons related conversation, but if you want to take a stab at it.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, like copyright on Wikisource is basically the same as copyright on Commons. Public domain works have to be public domain in the US and in the country of origin. Freely licensed works, again, freely licensed works are generally, if they are freely licensed, then they're available everywhere. Most people, I think, work on public domain things. So generally things that are published, more than 100 years ago. Obviously that varies from country to country. But if you've got any doubts about whether or not it's allowed to be uploaded, like, I mean, the Internet Archive has a field called, what is it? There's something in the Internet Archive that says probably what the license is. Oh, this one doesn't seem to have it. But if you're ever in doubt, yeah, take it to the Commons Village Pump and ask there for confirmation. It's better to ask first if there's any doubt, because there's quite a lot of work that goes into preparing it for proofreading and obviously proofreading. So you don't want to do that if it's going to get deleted. I mean, I'm continually surprised by copyright laws. Like I've been uploading works to Commons for 10 years or more, and just a few months ago, I uploaded a World War I diary that had recently been digitized, and because I didn't have a source to prove the death date of the author, the work had to be deleted because the author could have died less than 70 years ago. And so it could well be still copyright. Even though most works around World War I are available and can be published, that one couldn't be. So yeah, it's always better to check. Basically, the 19th century and earlier, you're probably safe. Yeah.
So Sam, I think we have 12 more minutes to demonstrate any other advanced tools and features like Pub2, and then we'll end the session.
Cool. All right. Well, the advanced things I was going to mention was how to do pages where you don't have a PDF and all you've got is a pile of images. Would that be useful? Yeah. Does that sound right?
Sure.
Because I think, yeah, like in the world of manuscripts and digitization of handwritten things, oh, well, actually, and the other part of it was Wikidata and how all of this ties into Wikidata. So those two things I was going to try and tackle together. So here's an example I prepared earlier.
And there is a request. There is a request if you can also do how to crop an image as well.
Ah, sure. Yep.
Yeah,
So,
and inserting it in a work.
Yep. That's a good point. One of the downsides of using PDF or Deja Vu is that you should prepare all of your images beforehand within the PDF. Because so if you go through and you, yeah, so if I go back to an index page, if you've gone through and you've proofread all of your index page, and then you realize you're missing a page or a page has been duplicated, well, a duplicate is actually easier, but if it's missing a page, then all of your numbering is going to be wrong. Like all of these sequential numbers, that really matters because that's how we rebuild the book and put it all back together in the main namespace. And so if you have to come along later and add something to that, it's going to be annoying. It's doable. What you basically have to do is move everything up one, leave a space, and then shove something into that space. But it's a lot better if you don't have to do that. It's, make sure before you upload the PDF, go through it, make sure it's all there, it's all present. You don't have any fingers sticking into the text like you see sometimes on from scanning machines, or if there's torn pages, or if you're if you're taking it from microfilm or something, you can sometimes do multiple exposures of a single page. Make sure you've gone through and cleaned it all up and it's all in order and it's only what you want it to be, because it's quite annoying to have to do it later. And I mean, it's totally doable at any point, but yeah, nice to do it at the beginning. And similarly for cropping and images. So here we have well, in this case, they've used the entire image. This whole thing here is an image of that title page, but they've applied some various filtering. So it's got a completely white and transparent background, and the text is 100% black. Whereas in the original scan, that's not quite true. It's sort of more of a dark gray, and it's on a sort of yellowing paper. So there's lots of cleaning up of images and inserting those images into places in the text. And I think some of these chapters have, no, maybe not, have images in them. So when you're proofreading and there's an image, you insert it like a normal wiki image. If it's centered, you center it. If it's got a caption, you proofread the caption and you add that as text under it, and you try and duplicate the original layout. But if you have a bunch of scans of, in this case, it's a letter. So often you'll start with, sorry, this gone a bit large. Okay, so here, now we're back onto Wikimedia Commons, and if you've scanned a bunch of pages of a work, in this case, it's only 5 pages. It's a nice short thing. It could be hundreds. The thing to do is to create a category to upload it all to. And here we've also got a Wikidata item for it. So all works on Wikisource deserve their own Wikidata item. So by virtue of being in the main namespace in Wikisource, you can create a Wikidata item. And of course, you could create the Wikidata item first before you've done anything else. And most works on Wikisource are an instance of a version addition or translation. And I won't go too much into the details of the data structure for Wikidata, but basically every published work on Wikisource gets 2 Wikidata items, one for the work itself and one for the edition. And that means that we can do things like link between translations, between different wiki sources. And it means we can have multiple editions of the same work on one wiki source. In this case, it's a letter, so it's got various bits of metadata here. It's got an author and a recipient, I think. No, it doesn't have a recipient. But crucially, it has a Wikisource index page URL, and that's a really useful property to add to things, and that points to the index page. So here you can see we've got the 5 scans, and if I go to the index page, you can see it's a bit different from the PDF example. So it doesn't end in .pdf or anything. And that's because it's only made up of, in this case, TIFF files. So if I go into edit this, you'll see what it looks like. So everything else is the same, except the scans, we say what file type they are. And the page list doesn't have the page list template. It is literally a list of Wikitext links to pages, like wiki pages, in the page namespace. And these ones don't end in /123. They are just like that part of it is just the full file name from Commons. So for one file on Commons, you have one page in the page namespace. If I go back to viewing and we go into one of those and we go to edit, we can see we've got the same layout. It's the same side-by-side system, but here it's just the single TIFF file and then the proofread text. And here you can see there's some extra complexity here of a section tag. And that's because this page is actually 2 different pages. And so we want to be able to transclude them into the main namespace separately. So we want the right-hand side, which is the beginning of the letter, to be used before the left-hand side, which is actually page number 4, because this is a 2-sided, 2-paged letter. And so we've got section begin A, and then we've got section end A, and then we've got a page break, and then we've got section begin B, and it doesn't end because the page ends. And so what happens if I go up, yeah, I think we've still got 4 minutes, haven't we? And now if I go to the main namespace page for this, so now we're in the main namespace. And again, we've still got the same system of showing the pages here. And if I hover over those, it highlights them. But we'll see what that looks like when we're editing. So here we're actually including them individually. In this case, it's because of the section thing. So we want to be able to use that page, but only section A, and we want to call it number 1. And then we want to use all of this page, which is the 2 inside pages. And then we want to use page number 3, which is also which is from section A onwards. Actually, I think that might be wrong. Showing me up, isn't it? Anyway, you get the idea. So when you're working with individual scans, it's a little bit more laborious, depending on how you need to transclude it. If they're nice and easy to string together, then this can be a lot simpler. But if it needs to be, it can be as complicated as you want, and it will still cope. It will still put it all back together, and it will end up formatting it all together, and it'll look fine. And you can still download it to PDF or EPUB or anything else. You can see this one is full of these illegible text things. That's a English Wikisource convention to mark illegible text, generally handwritten text. Yeah, and so the Wikidata item for this then has as well as the index page property, it links to the index page. It also has a site link to the main namespace, and it has a commons category link to the category on commons. And so that ties everything together into one place. Yeah, I think that's about all about that. And I think we've got 2 minutes to go. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, there is a question about what's the best file format for the future. Should people use PDF, DataVu, JPEG, TIFF?
Good question. I think there's, it depends on the project. If you're using, like in this letter, this letter isn't hosted anywhere else in the world. So these TIFF files, which are like 70 megabytes each, they don't have another home. So it made sense to put them onto Commons where they're in, one place and they can be linked to various other things. And then it made sense to, because there aren't that many of them, to just use them directly in the proofreading process. If you've already got, like on Internet Archive, the original high resolution scans are already here. So we just download the PDF that they generate. Like that's fine. We don't want to go and fill up Commons with hundreds of thousands of high resolution, in this case, JPEG 2000 scans, when we can just do it with the PDF or the Deja Vu. So yeah, it really depends on the project and on how it needs to be handled. So like some of the Indonesian digitization projects have ended up with uploading multi-gigabyte PDFs to Commons, and again, in some parts of the workflow, you can hit problems once your PDF is overly large like that. So, some of the issues are because of the way our infrastructure works. Some of the issues are around, what's going to make it easier for the people doing the scanning. So there's no total one answer, I would say. Broadly speaking, I feel like Deja Vu is decreasing in popularity, and the amount of tooling around it is bit by bit sort of going out of date. That said, it is a really interesting file format, and in some ways is a lot better than PDF. But a lot of people are much more familiar with PDF. So if all you've got is PDF, then use that. If you're taking photos of documents with a digital camera, then it quite likely will be putting out JPEGs. But if you're scanning with a flatbed, then you're more likely to be scanning to TIFF or PNG. So it really does vary. In cases of fine handwriting, you want really good quality. In cases of newsprint or printed works, it doesn't have to be so high quality. I think there's no simple answer really to the file format question. But come along to the scriptorium and talk about it, I would say.
Thank you so much, Sam, for this amazing demonstration. I'll hand it over to Gorana from the Let's Connect team to close the conversation. I'll share a link to the Wikisource global community Telegram channel in the chat. So please join that, ask your questions. Let's continue this conversation there. And if you're interested in working with manuscripts, we'll join you there as well. Thank you so much, Let's Connect team, for having us here. Gorana, over to you.
Thank you very much, Satdeep. Thank you very much, Sam, for such an amazing workshop on editing Wikisource. I'm so happy to see all the comments, all the questions in the chat and in the Jamboard about Wikisource. I think it was really amazing. And I think it gave us like a clue or a signal to make more workshops like this. It's really amazing. We have 8 more minutes until the end of this learning clinic, and since we do have more questions in the Jamboard that we did not answer, maybe we can go to a little bit more of Q&A, and then we can do like a wrap up and closure of the session. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds good. I can take a look at the Jamboard. So yeah, before coming to the questions, maybe I'll just read a couple of the aha moments here. So someone says that it seems like a really powerful tool for libraries trying to make digital books available in appropriate and accessible formats. I agree, and I think Sam here would agree on that as well. And another person said that it can be used to preserve endangered manuscripts. Indeed, and that's what we are hoping to kind of promote as well. And someone just shared that in the end they were very confused, and which was kind of a little bit expected for a complete newbie to Wikisource. It is a lot. There are so many moving pieces. We have the recording. Maybe you can go through it again and also come join the Wikisource community. Maybe that will, if you have other questions while you're working on Wikisource, you can ask them there. So coming to questions, what other question do we have? So there was a question, Sam, what happened when there are 2 different scripts or languages on one page?
That's a good point. Yeah. So it depends. Like sometimes it's a work in one language with passages in another. So you'll always proofread them as they're written in that language, and you can mark them up in such a way that the HTML that ends up being output will actually say what language they're in. So that's one common thing if there's just sort of small parts of a different language. But sometimes you have works like a multilingual dictionary, where you want to effectively proofread in multiple languages, and often they will be done on multilingual Wikisource, where multilingual Wikisource currently supports, I think, 24 different languages. I can't remember. Or not, I mean, not supports, like multilingual Wikisource is the Wikisource incubator space. So if your language isn't supported elsewhere by its own project, then you can add things to multilingual Wikisource. And it supports all languages that the Wikimedia software supports, which is quite a few. Yeah, not all yet. We know that.
You're muted, Satdeep.
Thank you, Gorana. So we have a couple minutes. I think, Sam, I've shared a link in the chat, and someone asked if you can share, if you take this file, how do we get started from there on Wikisource? So maybe like really quick demo again.
Yeah, sure. Let me just reshare my screen. Right, is that working again? Yeah. Where did that link go? Got too many things. Where's the chat gone? Not very good at Zoom, am I?
You can just
All
search
right.
on.
I'm
You can
getting
just search
there.
on
Yeah.
comments.
Here we go.
Okay.
Right. Cool. Okay. So you can see that.
Yes.
Right. So we have a freely licensed work here. Yeah, great. And someone's already changed it to using the book template. So we can jump into the index page, which doesn't exist, and we'll create it. I won't actually save it because I'll leave it to whoever's wanting to contribute it to do this. And so in here, we'll I'll just grab that. So in here, we'll do like the title, and the title will be a wiki link, and the author will also be a link, and all the other information that you want to put in. And it knows that it's a PDF, and you'll select a cover image. I think in this case, it's probably page number 1. And we'll leave this as page list needed. Once we've finished the page list, we'll change this to be proofread. And then we'll start work on the page list. So so this bit is already, whoops, the page list is already pre-filled, and I hit preview. And then as soon as you click on one of these buttons, it opens this overlay that gives you the preview of, and you can scroll and move this, the preview of whatever page is selected here. And you can click through and it will reload, and I guess that's blank. And so what I'm looking for is page number 1. In this case, like, this work has obviously been made somewhat recently on a computer, and the PDF has been created, possibly from a scan, is it? It might be. That does look a bit printed. So we can probably, so here we've got page 5 of the front matter. We'll keep jumping through. And so what we're going to try and do is, so that's page 6, and this will be page 7. So if I jump back, so that means that page scan number 2 equals 1, and 2 to 10 is lower Roman. Oops. What am I doing? And then I'll keep clicking through here. This can be a bit of a tedious process, because what you want to do is make sure that everything is correct. Oh, it looks like the front matter goes on and on. Yeah, so I won't go into that. But basically, what you're trying to do is set up the syntax here so that every time you hit preview, you end up, and all these numbers are correct. And every time you click on one of these, it matches whatever is seen in the scan. And so that's that's probably the most time-consuming part of setting up an index page. I won't save this one. All these other fields, you can, there's documentation about those, but for a basic work like this, you know, none of that needs to be done. And then you'd hit publish, and then you can start proofreading. So that's the, yeah, that's the basic work. Oh, Satdeep, you've got your hand up, sorry. I just noticed.
Thank you so much. I think just we are at time. I'll pass it on to Gorana for closing. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. And as I have already said, thank you all for coming. It was very interesting learning clinic. And I think this is a very big hint for us to make more learning clinics like this. Thank you all for taking your time. We can stop recording now so we can all